Professional dress. So like I said, business suit, I always will tell you, I would rather be overdressed. I don't want to go to an interview and the person interviewing me is more dressed up than I am. Don't be alarmed if you come to Tyson. You might be in a suit, person interviewing you is in khakis with their name on it. Yeah. Do not feel uncomfortable. We do that, we prepare people, but ask before you come in. By the way, what's the business dress? Is it business casual, where you might want to wear something like this? Is it business suit? So don't be worried so much about what you're wearing. I always say wear something you're comfortable in, because if you're not comfortable, you're not going to be worried about the interview. You're going to be worried about what you're wearing or how it fits. Moderate makeup and perfume. Wear simple jewelry. Closed-toe shoes. Just remember, there's nothing wrong with you being you, but anything that distracts the interviewer from what you're saying and is staring at something on your body, it's distracting. Yes, there's nothing, I mean, I've had people go, well, that's me, and I'm not taking something out, or I'm not covering that up. Well, I agree, but the manager is going to be staring at you for an hour. So let's let them listen to what you're saying as opposed to what you're presenting. Men, again, so if you're telling anyone you know, clean iron shirt, conservative, tie is optional. Sometimes people wear sports jackets instead of a tie. Clean shave. Cologne, perfume, all that, kind of keep that to a minimum. You could be in a small room that is very hot. I've interviewed a man who was looking for a truck driver, and it was a very small room, and he did not smell very good. That was the quickest interview in my entire life, and I've never said that about someone. It was very, very bad. I felt bad for him. He was a great guy. I recommended they interview him, but I was just like, okay, let's hurry, let's hurry. So just remember those things. Good impression. Be on time. Arrive early. Parking, if you can't assume the visitor spot's going to be open. You would rather be waiting on the manager going, wow, they're 30 minutes late, than them waiting on you. You always want to get there. They say be there at 8. I'd be there at 7:45, 7:50 in the front lobby to sign in. Handshake and smile. Eye contact. Look them in the eye. A firm handshake. If you know you don't have one, fake it for the interview. Not too hard, but just a firm one. Relax, make it conversational. Eye contact. Listen. A lot of times they're going to ask you questions, and they're asking you a question, you're worried about the answer. Think about what they're asking, because your answer, you might need to adjust and say, okay, give me a moment. Do you mind? Let me think about that. There's nothing wrong with a pause. Reflect, be honest, give yourself time. Avoid negative body language. Do not sit like this and turned around or playing with your hair. If you have a habit of that, pull it up. I mean, things that you know you're going to do. Just go. And there's nothing wrong with it. We all do it.
I've interviewed folks, fair-skinned women, who get red, blushy in the neck. If you know that that's you, wear a turtleneck. Wear, you know.
Or wear a scarf in the summer if you don't want to wear a turtleneck. I mean, or your hands sweat, or your arms. There are people that you do it, and everybody knows. Wear a jacket. Keep your. I mean, just know that it's not a big deal. But when you raise your arm, you're like, oh. Yeah. It's just distracting. It's distracting. Sell yourself. Give good examples. Okay, remember this. This is your time to shine. So if you're in there, yeah, well, when you get the job, you're probably going to be like, way. If you're, yes, it's going to, I mean, be positive. Sit tall. If you're a quiet person or shy, there's nothing wrong with it, but just look like you're engaged. Sit in front of the mirror. Look at the faces. If you have a face that's kind of when you're bored or thinking, just kind of remember all that, because when you get in an interview, you forget. You completely forget. Oh, one thing I'll tell you. Always go in with the list of questions for the manager. Ask them at the end. They're going to say, do you have any questions? Yes. Ask them any specifics you had about the job that are job-related, but ask them about themselves. How long have you been with the company? You know, when did you, or how did your career start? How did you get to this role? What do you think my biggest challenge is going to be stepping into this role, being new to the company and new to the position? Ask those questions because, one, they're going to think you're interested, and two, managers want to talk about themselves, so take advantage of it. The worst thing you can do is at the end say, nope, you answered all my questions. Make up one. That's why I make a list. Do not ever leave an interview without asking at least 1 or 2 questions. Because, one, the manager thinks, well, they don't really care, or I guess they think they got the job. I mean, ask something. Tell me about yourself. How are your professional strengths, weaknesses, efforts you've made to overcome the weaknesses. These are the questions they're going to ask, going back to your questions about, oh, you know, what do I share, what do I not? Short-term, long-term goals. This is a good question. Short-term should be, you know, I want to be able to get myself into this school, or I want to be a 5th grade teacher, or I want to work in this company. A long-term, well, you know, I really think I want to stay in this field, but I'm still open, I'm pursuing. I mean, you don't have to say a definite title, but make sure that they see that you want to stay somewhere long-term and you have a longevity. I want to retire next week is not going to be... And we've had people say that. I want to work 5 more years and retire. And I'm like, well, me too, but you don't need to say that. What success looks like in this position. Your greatest accomplishments. Again, I would always recommend you write down quick strengths, quick weaknesses, failures, successes, and then Carolyn had added also some examples.
Examples, yeah.
And you don't have to write them out. Again, behavioral interviewing techniques. Look for more objectives, set of facts, story-based real life. Harder to embellish real life experiences. It's harder to lie when you have to keep lying. Specific, open-ended, tell me about. And again, this is taking your past experiences and predicting the future. So if you acted this way, the manager can say, oh, well, they're probably going to act this way. That's going to be really good for my team. Describe a situation in which you had to get something very difficult done in a fixed time frame. Follow up. What were the circumstances? What were your actions? Describe a success when you turned a failure around. Tell me about a time when you helped a team plan and you followed through with the goals. So just kind of think about these. And you can also, if you want some, send me an email. I'll give you a whole list of questions, or you can look on the internet. Great thing about the internet is they're out there. Okay, prepare 4 to 5 good examples of relevant to the position and the company. So remember, examples need to be tied back to the job that you are applying for. Progression, you know, I've started here, I was given additional responsibility, continued education, you know, I want to apply for this teacher position, I've done this internship, I've done this, I've job shadowed, anything like that that adds. Don't ask questions about pay. Don't ever ask. You'll be asked, hey, what's kind of your pay range, and you can tell them, but the last thing the manager wants to think is, oh, they're just worried about how much they're going to make. You should know that going into the interview or at the end of where the pay is going to align, and ask the HR individual, not necessarily the hiring manager. Also, vacation. Why are you worried? Well, it could be you already have something planned. Discuss that when you get to the offer. Clarify any questions before you leave the interview. Ask for a business card. Hey, do you mind if I think of any questions? Do you have a contact name, or should I ask the HR individual? Find out how you can follow up if you have questions following the interview. And then a time frame. You know, do you have a time frame of when you plan to make a decision, or I should hear something back? There's nothing wrong. That would be the last question I ask. I really enjoyed this interview. You know, what kind of are the next steps? Is there a time frame of when I should hear back from you? And then at 2 weeks, follow back up. An email, a call. Hey, you know, you had mentioned that it'd be 2 weeks. I'm sure you're very busy. I just wanted to follow up to see if there's any feedback. There's nothing wrong with that. And it also shows that you're still interested. Post-interview, handshake, thank them, reiterate your interest. Again, I'm very thankful for you, or Caroline, thank you so much for your interview today, meeting with me, taking time. If you have any questions for me, let me know. I can't wait to start. There's nothing wrong with being eager. Appropriate time frame, handwritten thank you notes, email is really appropriate. Email you can do. A lot of times people come in, they'll say, hey, Kristen, can you get me a list of everybody I've interviewed and their email address? That's easy. Handwritten notes are well, too. Find somebody you can send them all to if you don't have everyone's address. If you do a handwritten note, do it that day, because it could take 2 to 3 days before we get it. But don't feel like you have to do a handwritten note. For education, that might be something they really want. Yeah. I think they do, don't they? And then follow up with the recruiter or HR representative on a timeline. I mean, don't not follow up at all because you didn't want to bother them. Hey, when can I follow up? When should I expect to hear something? If you don't hear anything in that timeline, follow up again. Hey, you mentioned it could be 2 weeks. Is it going to take any, you know, how much longer? I know y'all are busy. I mean, there's ways to make it sound like you are interested without Hey, when am I gonna know? When am I gonna know?